Hey everybody, welcome back to Joe Sins Rivers Photos. Sorry I've been notably absent, really for the better part of the last couple months. Let's just cheer up a little bit. Y'all know I've been releasing records and cutting records and writing songs and all that stuff. But the Christmas EP is out, the single is out, and then the record will drop right after Thanksgiving. I still plan on releasing the Tribute Elvis album as well. But we're going to do some reading. I did promise that, and I do owe you. My wife actually was like, hey, how come you haven't been doing anything on the Elvis channel? She goes, I don't have anything to listen to. I'm like, oh, come on, baby, you don't need to listen to my stuff. But she's sweet. I guess she listens to every episode. So if she noticed that I haven't been doing it, I'm sure y'all have. Gonna do some reading of Me and Elvis, the Charlie Hodge book. I did get this in a collection I bought. Hey, by the way, I'm gonna have a very special guest on. I'll be doing some teases for it once we actually do the taping of it, but it'll air on Elvis's birthday, and I'm very excited about that. Been in communications for the last 6 months, and I don't want to spoil the surprise, so I'm not going to mention the name yet. But let's get to doing some reading here. As always, I don't really read these books before I read them to you. At some point, I will reread the books, but this is the first time through. So, Me and Elvis. This is for Pumpkin. This was written in 1988. The intimate memoirs of Charlie Hodge, who shared Elvis's home and his stage for 17 years. This is what Charlie Hodge said in the quote. Elvis liked to introduce everyone who worked with him. I always stood right next to him, but I was always the very last one that Elvis introduced. He would turn to me and say, Charlie plays the acoustic guitar, sings harmony with me, gives me a glass of water, and hands me the scarves, and he's my friend. Charlie Hodge. The Prelude. Lisa Marie wandered into the den. She had that moody Elvis look. There was so much of her father, in her, that it hurt to watch her. The same blue eyes with the low fire burning. The cat moves seen on 1,000 screens and stages. She sank down on the couch by me. On the green lawn outside, her grandfather, Colonel Bobblehead, watched our steaks smoke and hiss on a stone fire pit that he brought back from a trip out to the Orient. Priscilla's mother was out in the kitchen, fixing salad and things. Now, looking at her profile, you could see where Priscilla got her beauty. Dinner was to be at 7. That was the usual hour at the Bobblehead home. Charlie, Lisa Marie said softly. Yes, Pumpkin? I said, taking off my reading glasses. She dragged her toes through the thick carpet. Elvis liked to roam the house to find someone to talk to. Now, often, absent-mindedly, he would pick up my electric razor and knock the beard off his face while he talked. I was reading one of those books, Lisa Marie said. You know, the ones that talk about Daddy. I nodded and waited. She needed time to say it in her own way. Those books were the sort written quickly and shoved into print by strangers to make a fast buck after her father died. She looked at me at last. I was glad to see the Presley fire flicker anew at the bottom of her warm eyes. Daddy could act crazy, Lisa said. But he didn't act the way some people say he did all the time. Wise and honest. She looked at me in silence, vulnerable, waiting for me to reassure her in some way. I had stayed in Elvis's home for 17 years. There were so many good things to tell her about her father and so many good memories. Elvis always expected good things. Elvis said to Charlie once, I knew something good was going to happen to me. I just didn't know what it was, but it was a feeling that the future kind of looked bright. A feeling that I had ever since I was a kid. Sometimes he worked so hard to make his dream come true that somebody would ask him if he wasn't taking on too big of a load. Elvis would smile and say, there's mountains not too steep for a fine stepping horse, Charlie. Don't you worry about any of that house. Just help load the wagon. We were both 21 when Elvis walked out of the shadows and into my life, backstage at a big Memphis auditorium. I was singing with the Foggy River Boys on a national tour with Red Foley's Ozark Jubilee. Uncle Sam recruited me and Elvis for basic training at the same time, and then he put us in neighboring barracks at Fort Hood, Texas. Riding the high seas, aboard the troop ship SS General Randall, Elvis had the officers put me in the bunk right above his. At night, I could hear him weeping for his mother. She lay in her fresh grave, and I tried to comfort him then. Elvis's military base in Germany was only a few miles from mine. He told me to think of the big old house he rented at Bad Nauheim as my own. Well, we played together in Paris on leaves, and when Elvis came back home, he asked me to climb on the train with him and go to Hollywood. When Elvis returned to the concert stage in Las Vegas, he wanted me up there with him to help him with rough spots, to keep a glass of Mountain Valley water from Arkansas handy on top of the stage piano, to hand him all of the scarves he sailed out to the audience, and to harmonize. Let's stop for a second there. Charlie's the only male that Elvis did a duet with, besides Frank Sinatra on the show. Unless I'm incorrect here. It was on one of his earlier records. I want to say 59 or 60. I can't remember the song, but I do remember listening to that duet and thinking how well they sounded together. Alright, so back to the book. Elvis discovered that when he wanted to complain about something on stage, he could yell at me about it. That got his complaint across to everybody, but it didn't make anybody mad at him, including me. I always understood what he was up to. I grew up entertaining people by mimicking voices. I trained my voice to sound like Elvis's. When his voice got tired, he could just fade away and I would pick up the note and carry it to the end. The audience never knew they were hearing my voice instead of his. Wherever Elvis lived, in Palm Springs, Los Angeles, or Graceland, he had one room that he called Charlie's room. We chased an incredible dream for 17 years. No book can capture it all, no movie. And mystery is not easily trapped. And Elvis was a mystery. His life baffled even him. Coming in off a short tour once, Elvis said, Charlie, you know how much money we made for working all 12 hours on stage? Well, we headed to the back door of Graceland, towards the barn to check on the horses. Well, how much? I said. For 12 hours of music, after paying off all our expenses, we brought home a little more than $800,000, he said. That's a heck of a lot of money. I don't know when that was. A short tour, all 12 hours on stage. Could have been 2 or 3 shows. $800,000 profit. Well, good for Elvis. He deserved it. He deserved more than that, right? I just went upstairs to the bedroom one night at Graceland, and the room was as cold as a snowfield in the Rockies. Elvis loved the air that way. One of the guys used to tell people, it's so cold that you could hang meat in there. Now, I sat down on the couch by Elvis's bed and tried to keep from shivering. I had to go into his huge closet and pull down one of his robes, and I wrapped it around me. It was one of those soft blue ones that Elvis liked. With the hood you could pull over your head, and that's just what I did with it. I sat back down on the end of the couch, crossed my legs like a meditating Eskimo, and smiled. He watched me. "Charlie," he said. "Yeah, Elvis?" He punched the big pillow and leaned back on it. Did you ever stop to think what one little boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, and another little boy from Decatur, Alabama have done?" he asked. "What's that, Elvis?" "We entertain the whole world." I nodded, "Yeah." We had done more than 2,000 shows together. Elvis looked up at the ceiling, and he stayed that way a long time. His smile turned, slowly as twilight falling, into a faint look of puzzlement. There was a wrinkle of concentration between his eyes, and I noticed a touch of gray at his temples. I had seen that look many times before, and he shook his head. "It never ceases to amaze me." Well, I'm enjoying this. All right, let's continue reading, shall we? By the way, I did get some, I'll kind of show you what I've been doing. This garage was a total utter mess, and I've been working on making a little entertainment space for my family. So I got a little sectional over there and a nice TV and my son's video game set up. And there's some green screens where I do some music videos, working on a table over there for my wife that's missing a part. And of course, we've had it for a while, so I don't know where that part's at. But anyhow. Doing a lot more than just music, I guess. Work, built a fire pit in the backyard, putting together a lot of stuff. Nice little ottoman futon, I guess that's what it is. Got my studio cleaned up, so I'll be doing some readings in there as well. Again, remember, backdrop with Elvis books and records and stuff. So I have been busy. Haven't just been lazy. All right, ready to skyrocket is the next section. Elvis was a red-hot kid, ready to skyrocket when I first met him on a shadowy backstage in Memphis. Now, he'd come downtown to see Red Foley's touring Ozark Jubilee. My Foggy River boys were appearing on it. Now, Elvis came backstage to meet everybody. One of the girls on Foley's show, Wanda Jackson, told us that she had sung on the same bill with Elvis once. He was so explosive on stage that nobody wanted to follow his act. I think Elvis dated Wanda Jackson a little bit too, didn't he? I looked up, and there was Elvis Presley. He was walking towards me near a side door where I was having a cigarette. And there was a kid with him, short, like me. A nice teenager, with those friendly big eyes and a great smile that lit up the shadows. The kid tried to comb his hair the same way Elvis did, fluffed up in a high bouffant. And this was Billy Smith, Elvis's cousin. For all of y'all that don't know, Elvis's cousin Billy has a channel called Elvis Fans Matter. His wife Jo does a show with him and the granddaughter. So you should go find that channel. He shares a lot of memories and his opinions. All right. "Me and Elvis were watching," said Billy, "the night you guys won Arthur Godfrey's professional talent show. It was fantastic." "You know what?" I said. "That show had me scared out of my drawers. I didn't want the Foggies to go on at all. We were already stars on Foley's weekly network show on ABC out of Springfield, Missouri. The only thing that Godfrey show could do to us would be hurt us if we lost. And we had to go up against some very big professional talent. And I was dead against doing that show all the way," said Charlie. "But you guys won," said Billy. "Thank God," said Charlie. I flipped my cigarette out the side door and we stood around backstage talking. I liked them both. Elvis said he'd always wanted to sing with a gospel quartet like mine. He managed to get Cecil Blackwood to listen to him sing. Elvis smiled. "Mr. Blackwood told me I had better stick to driving my truck." Now, see, this is where all the confusion comes from. Because wasn't that what the guy at the Opry had said when Elvis sang, "Boy, you better stick to driving a truck"? We may never know where that quote came from, but I think probably it may be Charlie's that's the most accurate. Elvis kept Charlie there with him at all times. Well, not all times, but you know, there was a Charlie room. And Elvis definitely considered Charlie a friend, a good friend. A lot of y'all think maybe the best friend. I wouldn't disagree, but I also believe there's folks like Larry Geller that Elvis trusted more than anybody. And I believe he probably trusted Charlie quite a bit, maybe even more than anybody. And a lot of y'all are going to say Bailey Smith, and you know, some of y'all will say the Stanley brothers, you know, who were there. But you know, we're talking about, and some folks will say Joe Esposito, and some other folks might say Marty Lacker. But the truth of the matter is that Charlie Hodge was there from the beginning and served in the military like Elvis. There's got to be a measure of respect for somebody like that. Now, same thing with Red. I think Red served as well, maybe before Elvis. All right, let's get back to it. I asked Elvis if he ever caught our weekly network show, and Elvis said, just every Saturday night. Uncle Sam pulled both of our names out of his tall hat at the same time in 1958. Elvis arrived at Fort Hood for basic just about the same time I got there. He was in the barracks just down the street from mine, and as soon as he moved in, I went over to say hello. His eyes swept right over to me. I was standing there in rumpled green fatigues, and he showed no recognition of me at all, nothing. See, I really wasn't too recognizable, said Charlie. The camp barber had already given both of us crew cuts. Now, a crew cut does a lot to change your whole appearance, and it may well be the best disguise ever created by man. Pictures of me that were taken then, even my mother can't recognize. You look real familiar, Elvis said. I just can't place you. Well, I sang lead with the Foggy River Boys, I said. He got a big smile. Hey, man, I met you backstage at the auditorium in Memphis. He shook his head. I just didn't recognize you like this. Well, we saw each other from time to time. One weekend I saw him standing by a big red Lincoln with a Waco friend named Eddie Fidel and a couple of Elvis's employees from up in Memphis. They all piled in the big limousine, and Elvis drove off to spend the weekend at Fidel's big house in Waco. I watched them drive to the main gate and out of sight. Well, I got in line for the next bus and I rode it into town and messed around for a while. A little picture there that you can see. Let me bring a little bit closer. Some of the words might be backwards, but at least the photos are going to be recognizable. Well, it was a gloomy summer for Elvis. His mother was ill, and the Army gave him some time to go home to see her. She died suddenly while he was there, and Eddie Fidel told me just how grim that September was in Memphis. I guess this is Eddie Fidel. Elvis was numb by grief. We tried to take his mind off it, but nothing worked. Someone got the idea of asking the Tennessee Highway Patrol to fly in one of his helicopters. The next day, one of the state's big choppers landed out behind the Grayson Mansion, and the pilot began giving Elvis and the rest of us rides, or to the rest of them rides. They came back the next day, and they kept flying Elvis all over Memphis and along the river. Tennessee loved Elvis, and they grieved along with him. The helicopter pilot avoided, of course, the Forest Hill Cemetery and the new grave. Days passed. Still the gloom lay over Graceland like a thick mist. One day, the helicopter pilot gave Elvis the control stick right after they took off. "You fly it," the pilot said. Elvis didn't hesitate a moment. He flew the chopper. When he brought it back to land in the field behind the mansion, Elvis looked down at all of us staring at him solemnly, and he smiled. Picture there. Still grieving over his mother, Elvis had to leave all of his friends and relatives behind when he got on the troop train and rolled north to the port of embarkation. That was when me and Elvis started to get close. See, he was staring out the train window when I went up the aisle looking for him. I sat down across from him. We talked about this and that, about the show people we knew, and it got late. I fell asleep as the train rattled and rolled along, and he put a blanket over me. And that's sweet, Elvis. That's really nice. That's why we love Elvis, right? He tried to think of other people as much as he could. Elvis came to the ship looking for me after we sailed out of the harbor aboard the troop ship SS General Randall. Elvis said to Charlie, Charlie, I don't know a single one of those guys up in my compartment. You want to move up there with me? Well, he got permission from the ship's officers, and I moved to his compartment. I took the bunk on top, and Elvis had the bunk below. Now, during the days in the high seas, he was smiling and relaxed, like really easy going. At night, he grieved in his bunk. I would lie there in the darkness and listen as he quietly moaned from down in his heart. After a while, I would climb down and sit on the side of his bunk. I'd tell him jokes and stories until he began to feel a little bit better and could fall asleep. And when I climbed back up in my bunk, I made it my goal to keep Elvis laughing all the way across the ocean. One day, as we stood on the railing and the ship plowed its foamy way through the foggy North Sea, Elvis said, Charlie, you keep me from going crazy. The ship's officers kept the other soldiers busy. Let's see here. Some more photos. Hopefully you can see those. That's me and Elvis and Ski sailing from Germany, and then feeling close on the troop train right there. Okay. Kept the other soldiers busy, sweeping off the decks and scraping all the rusty spots off the irons. They asked me and Elvis to put together some entertainment for the troops during the voyage. Now, a sailor named Ski was in charge of the production, so that was Ski in that picture back there. The guy was about as tall as Elvis. We spent a lot of time in Ski's compartment. He had his place fixed up nicer than most, and he had an accordion laying around. He said he played it when he got lonesome. One day, Elvis picked it up and he began to play it. From out of the blue, a Navy photographer appeared. He got his Elvis picture, and it showed Elvis looking up in surprise. Who the hell was that? Said Elvis. The photographer had vanished with his rare picture of Elvis playing an accordion. It would be worth a fortune if it could be found. Huh. I kind of thought I've seen that picture. Maybe not. Have y'all seen that picture? We put up notes on all the bulletin boards asking anybody with any sort of talent to jump in and be part of the shows. Elvis agreed to play the piano. I'll be one of the backup musicians, he said. Now, he didn't sing a single note. It must have been the first time and only time in his life that he was on stage and never got introduced. But all eyes were on him. Magic was all around him. Ski begged Elvis just to walk out on stage. Let's just make it their show, not my show, Elvis said. Let me just sit here and play piano for the performers. Now, few entertainers ever had such an expensive man on the piano. Elvis got a kick out of how the ship's crew found a way to bring me a brew every day. They smuggled it in during rehearsals. It came in innocent looking, Having trouble reading here. Elvis got a kick out of how the ship's crew found a way to bring me a brew every day. They smuggled in during the rehearsals, and it came in innocent-looking soda pop bottles that the sailors had emptied and then refilled with the good stuff. There we go. I got through it. Charlie, you always figure out a way to get what you want, Elvis said one of these days as I sipped from the soda pop bottle. I smiled. I try, Elvis, said Charlie. Now he moved over to the little bench by the piano and said, sit down and play me something. A song we can harmonize. Well, he nodded and smiled when my fingers picked out the first melodious strings of the notes in the gospel song, his hand in mine. That was a song we harmonized on for the rest of the trip and all the many months that we spent in Germany. I believe Charlie sang harmony on the, maybe harmony on the record as well. They kept Elvis and us in quarantine for 3 weeks after we got off the boat in Germany. His base was at Friedberg and mine was 10 miles away at Kirchgons. Kirchgons. That part of Germany has a lot of beautiful old resort hotels, and they attract mostly older people. And they're real quiet. One of the best was the Park Hotel at Bad Nauheim. It was only a few miles from Elvis's base. The Park Hotel was where Elvis moved a couple of his employees and his father, Vernon, and his grandmother, Minnie Mae, who he affectionately nicknamed Dodger. The rest of us called her Grandma. Hey, somebody asked me recently if Dodger, Minnie Mae, had ever been to any Elvis shows. And that's a good question. I don't know. I'm going to see if I can look it up real quick. I feel like she would have, right? But maybe not. Yeah, it said she lived there at Grayson, but there's no indication that she ever attended any of his live shows. She was especially afraid of going to the basement of Graceland due to snakes. She just generally stayed at the mansion. Yeah, okay. I've never heard of it either. Maybe she just didn't want to travel. Maybe she was scared of plane flights. Maybe she just didn't want to be away from Graceland and travel on a train or drive. But you would think that maybe some of the shows in Memphis she might have went to attend. Maybe in the earlier days. I'll keep looking for it, the information, and y'all look it up as well, and leave a comment if you found any indication that Dodger ever attended any shows. All right. On my first day off of duty, I went by the Park Hotel and called Elvis's suite from the lobby. Lamar Fike picked up the phone upstairs, and he didn't know who I was. Charlie Hodge, he said. Elvis, deeper in the suite, yelled out, Charlie, get on up here. Elvis came over to the door and hugged me while I walked in. Now, he always loved to hug people. So do I. I love to hug them, give them a little dap. Good for Elvis. He took me around the suite, introducing me to his people from Memphis. Tell Daddy some of the jokes you told me on the Randall coming over here, Elvis said. Man, I don't know what I'd done without someone like you around to make me laugh, at least once in a while. But listen to this, Daddy. So Elvis put me to work making everybody laugh. The kind of job I'd been working at for years, ever since I was a kid in Decatur, Alabama. Grandma was bustling with joy when she came in. Dinner's ready, boys, she said. Germany was the best thing that happened to her in years. Back at Graceland in Memphis, she had servants that waited on her hand and foot. She didn't feel needed, but here in Bad Nauheim, she was needed again. She was running the kitchen and feeding a bunch of hungry people, and they all depended on her. Elvis put an arm around my shoulder. I'm just going to ask you once to eat with us. From now on, though, when it's time to eat, just come on in and sit down with the rest of us. It was a royal welcome, said Charlie. For the next year and a half, many of my weekends were warmed by the hospitality of Elvis at home. All right, that's where I'm going to stop. Should have a bookmark, but I'll remember. Page 14. Okay, kind of the bottom of page 14. Got a lot of, oh, there we go. There's the picture. I knew I'd seen it. It's right in the very back of the book. Who the hell was that? Elvis said. All right, well, I enjoyed spending some time with y'all. I'm probably going to open another channel called Joe Sends Rare Elvis Photos Music. Okay? So once I do that, or you can search for it now, perhaps I'll have it created by then. Please subscribe to it. And I'll be putting Elvis tribute songs on there, and probably, you know, some songs that I sing of Elvis's. And perhaps some of our songs my wife and I have recorded. I'll put them on there as well. That way we can keep this channel as much about Elvis as we can. And not that I won't probably play songs on here, but that other channel I can do some other stuff that's copyrighted and not have my channel get in trouble for it. So I guess if you watch this video, I will try to put a link in the description of all the videos in the past, so you can go subscribe over there to the other channel. Okay? And we will have dairy material on again. I'm just trying to find a schedule. And it may be on one of my other channels, the Mr. Joe Show. I'm not sure. But we will continue reading Elvis books, talking about Elvis, sharing our love of Elvis together. And happy Thanksgiving. That's tomorrow. Wrote a song called Don't Be a Turkey. I'll probably throw out there just for the fun of it. Okay? And of course, y'all seen one of my Christmas videos already. Find me on Facebook, Joe Sends Rare Elvis Photos over there as well, if you choose to. I usually have a little bit different content there. But this is the main focus, the main channel, and this is where the best of the content probably always will be, okay? Until next time, Joe Sends Rare Elvis Photos. Please have a wonderful holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, all that good stuff whenever you watch this. And know that you're appreciated and loved. Till next time.